So moving on, I want to talk about our symbols because this story is so symbol heavy. Everything, it seems, is a symbol. And remember, a symbol is something that represents something other than itself. It's a tangible object for an intangible concept. So we have the forest. Um, and the forest is, if you think about fairy tales, it's an archetype, and typically forests are places of mystery, of places of danger. If you look at Hansel and Gretel, that's where they meet the witch. It's a place that it thrives on deception. It's uncharted, uncivilized, maybe. And you can look at it representing all of these types of things, but essentially, when Primrose and Penny enter the forest, it's like they're leaving the world of childhood behind and entering the worlds of adults, and they are not capable of handling and dealing with the things that they see or the thing that they see in the forest, whatever that may be. So we've got this forest that's a symbol of danger and deception, but it's also a place where things begin to blur together. It's a place of light and darkness. It's a place of truth and fantasy. It's a place of life and death because we've got this the description of the forest, it's full of things that are alive, but it also is described as having like these decaying matter and fleshy body parts and things that were once alive. So I think that she uses this forest as a way to re-emphasize the blurring between fantasy reality, truth and fiction. But it's also a place that the girls have to visit more than once. They have to confront those traumas that they experienced 40 years before. So there's that idea of perception that's tied to the forest because Penny and Primrose, when they go together the first time, they experience the same thing. And when they go separate the second time, they have very different experiences. So their perceptions have altered. And if you hang with me for just a second, I just had this idea that when if you look at Penny and Primrose when they go together, the forest kind of causes them to lose each other. Um, and what I mean by that is they're disconnected from each other for a very long time. And in some ways, Penny loses everything that's kind of wonderful about Primrose. She loses the ability to dream, to live in the imagination. She loses that childish part of herself. Whereas Primrose, she loses the ability to look at anything rationally. She's stuck in this perpetual state of childishness and imagination. So it's like, in some ways, that adds to their foiled relationship. And I kind of mentioned this that each of them has to, at the end of the close reading, that's the reason why they can't stand to face one another, is because they lost what each other has. So anyways, I think that the forest is very much this rich symbol of all of the things that A.S. Byatt is circling around in this story. We also have the symbol of the house, which or the mansion, which I talked about a little bit earlier. But the house, it's full of irony. It's supposed to be one I mean, when you think of houses, traditionally they're places of safety, of comfort, that represent family. And ironically, this is not a safe place for them. They're not supervised. They're full of fear, and they are without family. So we get this kind of contrast of 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 images. I mean, of implications here. We also get this kind of contrast of fantasy and reality when I talked about the description of the house. So again, that is another place like the forest that complicates these ideas of perception, that complicates this idea of truth. Um, and another thing, another symbol that does the same thing, it's the thing. I mean, you ask yourself as you read this story, well, what is it? And I spend a lot of time talking about the description of the thing that I don't want to go into here. But is the thing war? Is it trauma of some sort? Is it the damages of war? Is it the loss of war? But whatever it is, whatever that thing symbolizes, whatever that thing tangibly is, Penny and Primrose are collateral damage of that. Um, when they go back to the mansion that's now a museum, and they have that reunion over that book, they see on that page the Arthurian knights, and the knight putting his sword into the loathly worm. And I think it bears to look at, I mean, this is not something that A.S. Byatt created off of the top of her head. This is, the loathly worm is rooted deep in medieval English legend and folklore as this hideous type of dragon that resembles a serpent. And and whenever something bad happened in areas across Europe, the loathly worm was to blame. And some people say that the thing in the forest and the loathly worm are one and the same. But I don't, I mean, I think that all depends on whether or not you believe they saw something. And I am of the opinion that they did see something. And the how do children process the things that they've seen? Well, they make up stories. Um, and I think that the loathly worm is just another way of representing childhood, representing damage, trauma, or anything of the like in a relatable, childlike, non-threatening manner. Um, and anyways, I think to look at our characters as symbols or as this form of allegory, which is a narrative in which a character, place, or event is used to deliver a broader message about real world issues and occurrences. I think that Penny and Primrose and Alice, um, while they are characters, I think that they are also symbols. I think that they are symbolic of all of the things that I've already talked about. And they could very well be used as part of a literary analysis. I want to talk about the themes. And some of the themes that are prevalent here are the loss of innocence, as I've talked about, trauma, loss, damage, reality, fantasy, memory, perception, truth, survival, even. And these are all themes that Byatt explores in this work. And what she's saying about those things is up to you and your reading and your interpretation. Um, but I want to know what you guys think about this story. What is the thing that you take away from this story? Was it real? Was it not? So look at the discussion boards, answer your questions, and I can't wait to see what you guys make of this story. It's fun, like I said earlier. This is a new story for me, so as I'm reading it for the first time as well as you all. And I'm interested in seeing what your first reading and what your first take of the story um, is. So I will see you guys in the discussion boards. Email me, ask me questions, let me know if you need any help. And I can't wait to see what you guys thought of the story.